primary region of white wines along the Rhine River.
I did. Yes, yes, I did.
Heavy the traffic here on the Rhine is compared to what we have seen so far. Even when we were sailing on the Danube, which is really wide, the traffic was not nearly as heavy as it is in here. You can see different barges, especially different cargo ships transporting different materials, like the one on the left side transporting coal. This coal would be transported from the Rhine Ruhr area. Ruhr is the name of a river flowing into the Rhine in the city of Duisburg, that would be further downstream from here. And they have really huge deposits of coal in there. They use this coal for powering the electrical power plants further upstream. So you'll see a lot of ships transporting coal, for example. Also chemicals, like the ship on the left side is transporting chemicals here. You see all the pipes running in there, so it would be a typical ship barge transporting chemicals. We are entering the Rhine Gorge officially in between the tower on the left side and the castle on the right side. So first, some words about the tower on the left, which is sitting on an island. The name of the tower is the Mouse Tower. Mouse Tower. It's a coincidence, it sounds like the name of a little animal, mouse, but the word mouse comes from the old German word Maut, M-A-U-T, and Maut in German means toll. So this was built exclusively as a toll station for the ships in the past to collect the tolls for a passageway through the valley. The tower was damaged heavily in the 1600s, and it remained a ruin up until 1899 when it was remodeled into a romantic looking style, the style of, as we can see it now. Again, the name is Mouse Tower these days, and on the right side, definitely one of the landmarks here would be the Ehrenfels Castle. It's a ruin which is being reconstructed. Ehrenfels Castle was a castle built in 1208. It used to be owned by the bishops of Mainz. Mainz is the city which we saw on the left side as soon as we arrived, or as we entered the Rhine River at approximately 8:45 a.m. it was. On the left side we saw the big city of Mainz, and Mainz has been a very powerful town when it comes to their bishops, and they used to own quite some castles here in the area, quite some lands, quite some vineyards. This area was not navigable at all. There used to be many stones, many rocks sticking out from the bed of the river Rhine, and up until the middle of the 1800s, towards the end of 1800s, all of the traffic I was just waiting until the train is gone so you can hear what I'm trying to explain here. All the traffic before the middle of the 1800s, the ship's traffic, all the goods have to be offloaded and reloaded further downstream. So this passageway was not passable or was not navigable at all because of those stones sticking out from the river Rhine. Later on, in the second half of the 1800s, they dynamited the area, and they cleared it off from those stones, from those rocks, and they created a passageway, which is now behind us. The passageway has 120 meters in width and 2 meters in depth. So it's possible to go upstream, downstream at the same time. Up until 1971, the passageway was much narrower, the navigational channel, and there was one at a time, ship allowed only. Since 1971, it's possible in both directions. So we are just through that area, and now the Rhine is opening up again, and you can see we are in a beautiful Rhine Gorge already. Yes, we are going to be sailing further downstream. I'm going to point out the most important sites and structures to you as well, and I will talk a little bit about the geography, geology, history. Many of you were interested what time we were going to be passing by the famous Lorelei rock, the most evident cliff of the Rhine. It's going to be about 1 hour from now. It is 10:52 right now, so it's going to be shortly before midday, shortly before the noon time, when we are going to be passing by the famous cliff, and that's going to be on the right side. But I will definitely point it out to you, and I will let you know exactly shortly before we get there. Very popular towns for tourists as well is the town of Assmannshausen. That's the town on the right side. You see many buildings, they look like big villas. They have a nice waterfront in here. The place is really busy during the summer months, with a lot of tourists coming in here. The town owns quite some vineyards, and then there is a cable car going from this town up to the top of the hill as well. It's just, you know, behind the horizon, which is very popular. It's very nice and popular to make a round. You go up with the cable car from Riedesheim to the statue, which we saw, and then you walk the range of the mountain, you take the cable car down to this town, and then take a sightseeing boat part of the journey back. So many people do that round. Also during the summer you see quite some bikers here in the area. They bike the trail on the right side here. The left side, one of the most beautiful and one of the most romantic-like looking castles. Coming up on the left side is definitely the castle of Rheinstein. Rheinstein, which translates into Rhinestone. It is built on a steep cliff. And also what is very romantic looking and very nice looking attached or next to the castle is the little tiny chapel, which you can see to the left of the castle down there. Castle of Rheinstein is one of the oldest castle buildings along the Rhine. They don't really know when it was constructed, but the indications go that it was already constructed, or the first castle on this spot was already constructed in the 9th century. Back then it was called Vogtberg.
You hit yourself.
And throughout the course of its history it was renamed frequently, many times, more than half a dozen times it was renamed. And only in the 19th century the final name of Rheinstein, as we know it now, was given to the castle. It is a chapel from the 1400s. And this chapel formerly used to serve several surrounding villages before those villages built their own churches. Another castle coming up on the left side, which is the beautiful Reichenstein castle. It's also called Falkenburg, which means the Falcon's castle. It was first listed in the official documents in the 11th century. It was a property of an abbey, which was based in Aachen, Germany. Aachen is quite far away from here. It's about 2 hours driving time. However, the local abbey used to own quite some properties among the other several castles here in the Rhineland. So this was one of the biggest castles they had. So this was owned by the abbey. It was destroyed in the year of 1282 by Rudolf of Habsburg. So the Habsburgs, you know, they didn't really own big plots of land in this part of Europe. They owned bits and pieces, but they wanted to enlarge their lands. They wanted to interconnect their bits and pieces into one area. And this is why very often they would attack different castles and different towns. And they were quite successful with this one. You know, they destroyed it, they took a possession of it for quite some years, from 1282. However, later on, in 1688, the castle was destroyed again. And this time it was destroyed by the troops of the French army. 1689, this was a very turbulent time here in the area, because this is when the French came and they destroyed everything in their way. Most of the castles, 90% of the castles in 1688 and 1689 were destroyed by the French. The French even seized this area for some years. It became part of France before it was regained back by the Germans. So most of the castles, and I will be reminding that to you as we are passing by them, they were destroyed by the French in 1689, 1688. They became ruins. You can already see another castle which will be coming up on the left side. Well, the reason is quite an interesting one, because this valley is the only, you know, this is the easiest passageway from south to north through the area. It's quite a hilly area on either side. So back in the past, traveling from, you know, central to northern part of Germany, this was the only and the easiest passageway actually to take. And this is how many rich individuals, many bishops, many monasteries, they decided to have their castles built in here only to collect the tolls from the bypassing travelers, including the ships and including the people traveling on land. So predominantly those castles were built to collect tolls from the travelers passing by, and this is how they could make a fortune. Well, of course, you know, very important was that those owners of the castles, most of them, they owned vineyards as well. That was another very important source of income. But the most money came actually from applying the tolls on the ship passing by. So imagine back in the days, sailing with a ship, with a boat, we would have to stop under, on a pontoon or a docking spot under every single castle there along the embankment, and we would have to pay a toll. In return, we would be guaranteed a passageway down the valley. If we didn't pay the toll, then they would rob you anyway. So it was much better off to pay the toll. And there were so many, there were 16, 17, 18 different tolls during this, throughout this 40-mile stretch from thru the Rhine to Koblenz. So this is also the reason why those owners of the castles back then, we nicknamed them robber barons. So there's another cruise ship sailing the opposite direction now. So we can wave to their guests in the sun, not many of them, but we are enjoying their time as well. People by applying very, very high tolls on the ships passing by and the travelers on land. The second option back in the days was travel through the woods, which was much more dangerous, because there were the bands of organized robbers existing in the forest, and they would just rob you, and in many cases they would kill people, you know, and they would just steal whatever the goods were they were transporting. So very, very turbulent, dangerous times. If you're looking to your left-hand side now, ladies and gentlemen, you can see these screens of walls protruding towards the middle of the Rhine River on the left side, creating right angles from the embankment. These have been constructed quite some time ago, only to divert as much of the volume of water to the middle of the navigational waterway as possible. Otherwise, the Rhine would spread out on the left side as well. We don't want that. We want to have the deepest possible water here in the middle where the navigational channel is. So that's why from time to time you will see such screens of walls running towards the middle of the river. And in that case, you know, there's a tendency that the sand will accumulate along the embankment rather than in the middle. But the surrounding area doesn't look that romantic because of the big huge quarry which you can see here on the left side. I saw some old photographs from 100 years ago, and there was another hill which has been just taken away. It's a local limestone which they're frying. And then you can see the material is being loaded to a barge right now with a conveyor belt. So they can produce big boulders out of that, or even they can grind it to a very fine sand, whatever the customer wishes. And then Everything is slowly goes back and transported. The building purpose of it is when building the highways, the roads, and so on. It's a very dusty area here, so we are just going to enjoy the castle and we are going for the rail speed. The name of the castle is Zone Castle. It means something like the sunny corner castle, Zone Castle. And this is a castle which was owned by the same abbey I was mentioning before with the previous castle, Reichenstein Castle it was, and Zone Castle. These two castles, they served as a protection system for the abbey, which used to be the owner of both of the structures. Would be the kilometer signs along the river. We are exactly 539 kilometers from upstream from the place up in Switzerland from where the river starts being navigable. Kilometer 0 would not be at the source of the river. It would be about 100 kilometers from the source of the river, from the place where the river starts being navigable. Further downstream we go, of course, the kilometers are going to be increasing for us. Now every 100 meters on the level on the right side, you can see one-digit numbers. Good visible would be the one on the right side now, number 2. That's 200 meters from the last full kilometer. Now 300 meters is number 3. 400 meters. Then instead of 500 meters, which is half a kilometer, there will be a cross sign.
Right.
Cross means half of a kilometer. And then it comes to 6, 7, 8, 9, and then comes another, or the next upcoming big sign, and in its case, coming up will be 540 kilometers. And we sailed all the way down to the North Sea. We would have to sail through the city of Rotterdam, and the last kilometer mark, shortly before the Rhine empties into the waters of the North Sea, is 1,000 exactly. So we are pretty much in the middle, more or less, of the navigational length of the Rhine River. Also this area is called the Middle Rhine. Water side, there is an experimental water turbine which was installed by the University of Koblenz. That's the city that we are going to be done this afternoon. Left hand side, that green structure, a water turbine producing some electricity. Most of the cases it wouldn't turn, I don't know why, but you know, this is what it is. So it's owned by the university. They do some experiments with that. Yeah, it's supposed to be propelling, it's supposed to be turning with the current. That's turning a little bit. An old wine-growing town. It's situated at the opening of the Vispertal Valley. There is a little river called Vispertal which flows into the Rhine here on the right side. And the entire valley of Vispertal, further upstream from here, which we don't really see, is just marked with different castles. There are quite some castles up the valley. The Nolik Castle is the last one of the line of the castles along the valley, which we can see the tower of above us on the right side. It was erected around the year of 1300. It was destroyed completely by the French in 1689, and the only part of the castle which is still left standing is the former keep, the former tower. But you know, 300 years ago the castle used to be larger, bigger, but it was destroyed, damaged, and then there was a tendency of the locals later on to use the stones from the castle to build their homes with. So most of the foundations of the buildings you are looking at, the historical buildings, the foundations of those buildings, they were built from the stones of the former castle of Nolik. So that's why only the tower is left standing, and it's not even the full height of the tower anymore. So Fürstenberg, one of the smallest castles in the area. Left side, Fürstenberg Castle, which was never rebuilt. It's still in ruin. And again, the same fate met this castle, 1689, the French destroyed it. Yes, I have to mention that the relationship between the French and the Germans 200 years ago in this area was not the best one. The French, they wanted to gain the control over this territory, which had been, you know, populated by the Germans, historically speaking. Of course, the Germans did not like that idea, so they were fighting each other on several occasions, and those years of 1689 were the most evident years, when it went to extremes, when the French really seized the territory. They burned down the castles, burned down the villages, the towns before the Germans became the town. We were sailing on the Danube River, and I was mentioning that already. The Rhine is not nearly half of the length of the Danube. The length of the Rhine is 1,300 kilometers, which would be about 800 miles in length altogether. This would be the length from its source to its mouth. The source of the Rhine is created by two streams which originate high in the Swiss Alps. They are fed by glaciers, some 10,000-12,000 feet above sea level. So these two streams, fed by the glaciers, they merge together in one of the valleys of Switzerland, and that's when the Rhine River starts being called the Rhine. The width of the Rhine at the beginning is about half of the width of the ship. So a little river, mountain river, flowing down throughout the Swiss countryside. Then the River Rhine leaves Switzerland and makes a border actually between Switzerland and Austria, and also it touches on a little tiny country called Liechtenstein. Then the Rhine enters a big lake of Bodensee. Bodensee is a border lake between Switzerland and Germany. It enters the lake on one side, leaves the lake on the other. Then it goes back into Switzerland, flows through the city of Basel, in which this ship is registered. That's already part of the Rhine which is navigable. Rhine in the city of Basel has approximately the width of the river Main, as you remember. If you picture the river Main in Würzburg, for example, this is how big the Rhine would be in Basel, Switzerland. This is the place from where the Rhine starts being navigable, and then it creates a border in between France and Germany. France being to the west, on the west bank, Germany on the east bank, flows through a big French city of Strasbourg. It's an area called Alsace-Lorraine, the area which for a long time was disputed in between France and Germany. And then the Rhine leaves the border area and flows through western part of Germany. This is where we are right now, the Middle Rhine, passing through quite some industrial centers, through the city of Mannheim, for example, which is behind our backs, upstream from here. The city of Mainz, which we saw shortly this morning on the left side. Burg Stahleck. Stahleck, that means something like steel edge. Steel edge, Stahleck castle. It's a castle which was erected in the 11th century by the archbishops of Cologne. So this far upstream was as far as the power of the archbishops of Cologne is to reach. Again, the same fate, 1689, the same history of the castle. The castle was rebuilt partially towards the end of the 1800s. There used to be a wall, a protection wall in front of the castle, just in front of the tower. You see to the left of the tower how high the wall is with a little turret, and the wall used to have that height, but it was blown up. So now we can see towards the interior of the castle, towards the interior courtyard of the castle. Now the castle is a combination of a youth hostel and a museum. On the left side, the town's name belongs to the castle is Bacharach. Bacharach is one of the towns which still has some protection towers with mainly there used to be a fortification wall running all around the town, also along the embankment, and you can still see former protective bastions, fortification walls left standing in here. Also what is catching your attention definitely would be a nave of the Church of Holy Mary, which does not exist anymore. It's a church which fell when the French occupied in 1689, so they didn't burn down the castle only, but also the church caught on fire. Whatever is left standing from the church is only the wall of the nave. Still beautiful Gothic windows in there. And the church, what we are seeing as the full church there, was constructed at the beginning of the 1700s as a replacement for the old burned down church. Well, definitely one of the landmarks coming up now on the right side. This is the fortress of Kaub, K-A-U-B. It's a fortress which was erected by King Ludwig of Bavaria in 1326, purely for economic reasons. The fortress looks like a ship, and the famous French writer Victor Hugo, when he was passing through this area, he said that this is a stone ship eternally swimming on the Rhine and eternally moored facing the town of Katz, which you can see behind it. So really the appearance is like the appearance of the ship. The reason is, well, the floods would happen from time to time. It would not be damaged by the floods. If there is a tree trunk hitting it, for example, nothing happens because there is that sharp, there is that pointed edge facing the current. And you can see little tiny windows towards the river where there used to be guns and cannons sticking out back in the days. So every ship had to moor next to it, had to pay tolls. So this was exclusively constructed for that purpose. Right side on the top of the hills above the town of Katz is the castle of Viticulture, which means the good castle. It was partially torn down in 1807. The locals used a lot of material from the castle to build their homes with. And the castle has its own winery with a 600-year-old tradition. It's a very popular place to do the wine tasting. You see, the ferry is quite determined to get as close to us as possible then.
Yep.
Most likely originate in Rotterdam, where they were bought by big ocean liners, and now they are going to be transported anywhere they need to be taken to. That would be, so one truck would transport 2 containers like that if it has a trailer. And just try to count how many containers are there. So the ship's traffic like this is the cheapest way of transporting goods, not the fastest one of course, but the cheapest and the most ecological, because a single barge like that can transport so many containers. So these would be things which will spoil easily. You see China shipping there, for example, so many containers came from China, from Southeast Asia, from all around the world. It's huge, it's enormous. Now this barge would be wide and it would be too wide to fit the mine engine canal, so this would be exclusively operating on the Rhine only. But you can still pick up where the terraces used to be. It's still terraced out, it's just being overgrown by the vegetation now. Most of the wine picking here, the grape picking in this area is done by hand because it's so steep. You might ask, and what you can see that most of the vineyards here, the vines are planted in vertical rows rather than horizontal ones. Doesn't make too much sense, right? Saying it like that, but the locals, you know, they've been doing it for the last 2,000 years, ever since the Roman times. The Romans were the ones who started the wine growing tradition, the viticulture here. And they say the soil is strong enough to withstand the heavy rain, so there wouldn't be any erosion. But there is erosion happening, of course, but not a heavy erosion. And the locals say it has an advantage if they plant the vines like that. They call it the chimney effect. The chimney effect of a warm air going from the river, especially during the cold winter months. You know, the warm air circulates like going up the chimney in between the rows, and it warms up the vines, the plants, so they don't freeze and they can survive until the next year. Bear in mind we are at the 51st parallel here, so you know, pretty much up north for successful vine growing. But it's been successful in here. And And also, the microclimate of this region is different from anywhere of the surrounding areas, because the microclimate of the valley is about 2 degrees warmer than the microclimate of the surrounding areas. If you go up to either side, to the top of these hills, you would be on kind of a plateau. They're not really, mountains or anything. It's kind of a plateau to which the Rhine Gorge is carved into. So there is an uplift of land on either side, and the climate is cooler, windier, no wine growing at all. It's only here on the slopes of the Rhine Valley. In the meantime, on the left side, we are passing by another castle. It's called the Castle of Schönburg. Schön, it's nice, beautiful, beautiful castle, Schönburg Castle. It used to be a beautiful castle before the French destroyed it in 1689. Mainly it was the troops of the so-called Sun King Louis XIV. And it lay in ruins for the next 200 years before it was rebuilt at the end of the 1800s. So how come, why did they rebuild all the castles towards the end of the 1800s? Why did they do it? Because by that time they had been ruins for good 200 years. Well, second half of the 1800s, the Rhine River was already a very safe passageway here, very important traffic link of Europe. This was the period of time when the English aristocratic rich families had a tendency to send their children, especially their young sons, for studies to France or to Switzerland. And those young English gentlemen, they would travel the Rhine Valley upstream to get to either Switzerland or France to study, and then they would be using the Rhine Valley to return back home to England. And they were bringing back home to England news about the beauty, about the romantic beauty of this area. And actually the English, they were the first ones to come here as tourists in the second half of the 1800s, having heard the stories about the beauty of this land. And this was exactly the period of time when the romantic movement started. It was a movement not only in literature, not only in painting, but also in architecture. So the architects, sure enough, they made it possible to happen that they would start reconstructing the former castle ruins into romantic looking castles. So most of the castles as we see them now, they are the product of the end of the 18th century remodeling of the former ruins into the romantic looking structures. So that's why, it was happening at the end of the 19th century, together with the beginning of tourism of this area, which was sparked by the English first, and later on tourists from different countries and stuff coming in. So then the economy changed tremendously from formerly one towns into quite powerful economically well-off settlements here, because now, of course, the base of the local economy is not only the wine growing, but very, very important is tourism. Extremely important as well. Many owners of those houses, what you can see, they have their big houses built only to have some extra rooms for tourists as well. They serve as bed and breakfast places. It's not difficult to find a very good accommodation here. But the picture is maybe because everything is full up. On the other side, one of the most interesting towns of the Oberwesel. Oberwesel is in the city of built around the side of the city wall, the foundation wall, or bastion, whatever you would call them. And they still have 16 out of the 19 original towers intact. It's rather amazing because, most of the towns of Europe, those towers are gone. So they still have 16 out of the original 19 towers, but you can still see them. You can still see the tower, the wall out there. If you look carefully here alongside the embankment, where the railroad comes on the left side, you can see the tower. You can see the wall grown by ivy as well. That's part of the city wall as well. Again, the name is Ober means upper or above. Bezel is just the name, upper or above Bezel. Bezel is the local river, which a little stream actually, which flows into the Rhine on the left. Well, as you can tell, the Viking owns quite some pontoons in here, like the one on the left side. It's one of the pontoons which is used by Viking when we do the Rhine cruise, that will be a cruise from Amsterdam to Basel, Switzerland on the Rhine only. So then the stops are different and we stop at different locations as well here. So for your information, ladies and gentlemen, we have about 4 kilometers now in order to reach and to pass by the famous cliff of Lorelei. It's 4 kilometers, about 2.5 miles from here. It's going to take about 10 to 15 minutes to get there. It's just behind the curve. We need to go through 2 curves now and it's going to come out on the right side. Definitely going down. Now this is an interesting site. There is a cooling cooler. These ships are cooling with a big valve and helping the barge. Because the engines of the cruise are not strong enough to fight the current. So sometimes they have to help it like that. You see, it's front engine with a cooling mode and then the back engine which the barge has. It's loaded with all the things, they're very, very heavy. Especially here through the Rhine Gorge, you know, the currents are much stronger because the river narrows down, the current is accelerated, and for some of these barges it's really hard to fight those conditions, so they need a hold like that. We are selling through the area which is called Siebenjungfrauen. Siebenjungfrauen in German means 7 virgins. 7 virgins used to be the stones, the rocks which used to be sticking out from the waters of the Rhine here in this area. We are talking between here and 1 mile further down, between here and the next upcoming curve. You will be still able to see some rocks sticking out. There used to be 7 of them, and back in the days, you know, before the river was cleared from the obstacles, it was very, very dangerous to navigate this part of the river. As you can tell, the river has squeezed down. It's much narrower than it used to be. And these were many ships used to shipwreck because of that. So there were stories about these, you know, 7 virgins which fell into the waters of the Rhine, got petrified. You know, they need to be freed by a very nice, handsome young man, and then they can leave. So this is the 7 virgins stretch of the Rhine. It's called. Again, this used to be one of the most difficult stretches to navigate the vessels back in the past. And yes, for sure, you know, the Rhine had been here before the hills were created. The river is much older than the surrounding mountains are. The river, millions, tens of millions of years ago, used to be peacefully flowing through a flat land, through the plains, and then the tectonic processes and the volcanic processes started. Many of these hills are of volcanic and tectonic origin, so the uplift of land started very slowly with the tectonic processes. So these hills, or the land started to be lifted up, and the river had enough power, enough eroding power to maintain its original course, gradually, you know, finding the elements and cutting its way through the newly created hills on either side. The uplift is still happening. It's happening at a speed of approximately half a centimeter per year. But of course the agents of weathering, they take their place as well. So the actual lift is not that high. But you know, from the geological perspective, the land around us will be rising and rising and rising, and the river will will be where it is, it will still have enough eroding power in order to maintain its original force. So this also explains the fact why the surrounding countryside on either side is resembling rolling hills. It's not really that mountainous or hilly, and the river is really carved inside of that plateau. Most of the rocks here would be slates, natural slates. You can see the geological layer in front of us, different layers, for example. And when you look on the roofs of some of the old buildings, you can see the rooftops. The roofs are covered with these intense black tiles. These would be natural slate tiles coming from this area. It's the most expensive way of covering your roof with, but then when it's properly done, it lasts for centuries. So those, show you the example here, but you will see as soon as we are passing through one of the towns, many roofs are covered with that kind of blackish, shiny material. That's the natural slate. In front of us first, and then it's going to be on the right side, the cliff of Lorelei. I can tell you the story already about Lorelei. It's not only the name of the cliff. The cliff was named after a virgin, half virgin, half girl, half fish. Actually, it's a girl with a fish tail. And supposedly, this creature used to live just under the cliff there, at the borderline between the water and the cliff. And she used to sing her enchanting, wonderful, beautiful songs to every single ship which was passing by. And the story goes, many captains and many sailors, they lost control over their steering skills because they just forgot about it. They started to listen to her beautiful songs, and many ships got shipwrecked because of that. So these are the legends, the stories of Lorelei. The statue of Lorelei used to be placed there under the cliff, but throughout the second half of the 20th century it was vandalized many times, unfortunately. So they moved the statue a little bit further down the river. It is sitting now on a little peninsula, which I will show to you, I pointed out to you. It's not under the cliff where it was placed originally, it's further downstream. So now you can already see the cliff in front of us, 120 meters above the waters of the Rhine, which would be about 360, 400 feet of elevation going up. You can see two cranes up on top. There is an amphitheater, by the way. During the summer, on every single evening, there would be a performance with the classical music, and even there are some rock bands coming up
wait
there.
until we get.
Events happening. There's an amphitheater. I believe it's marking the place of the river, which is at its narrowest. The width is only 150 meters, and the depth can go up to 25 meters, up to 80 feet. That's unbelievable. Left-hand side, this is kind of a traffic light here for the ships passing through. The captains really need to pay a lot of attention here. This is the most dangerous part of the Rhine to navigate. Of course, the radars these days and the GPS, they help a lot to see what's happening in front of us. We are constantly on the radio with our colleagues from other ships, so they can communicate and they can decide
Don't take
the way to move. Generally speaking, the ships coming downstream, they have the right way of passage, because then it's faster, and also it's more difficult to navigate going downstream than going upstream. Still, the old way is that traffic light there, which is still in operation, very important. So this is the cliff here on the right side. It's big, it's enormous, it's huge, and it is the place of the Rhine here, where the depth of the river is at it was measured 25 meters in one spot. I can tell you how deep the water is below us right now. Yeah, it keeps on, the sonar keeps on jumping back and forth. It's about 12 meters right now below the keel. It oscillates in between 8 to 12 meters of depth. We are talking of a depth of up to 40, 50 feet below us right now. Lorelei, that's how we spell it on the right side. That's where the statue used to be, and this is where the real life mermaid used to live as well.
Now we don't see the statue.
So this is the place. This is the place which is full of legends, full of, well, many folk songs, German folk songs, they have it in them. Many fairy tales, myths, and so on and so forth. Yeah, the most iconic mountains, hills. So they love to go anywhere where there are forests and hills and mountains, and they travel a lot. So many of those people do. So now there's this little peninsula sticking out to waters on the right on the right side, and it's in this line. That's where the statue of Lorelei is sitting. Yeah, she's German above her head. The statue which originally was placed under the cliff, but because it was vandalized, they decided to place it to the area which is not that easily accessible. You can already see it down the river, with the statue of Lorelei, girl half-fish, actually sitting there. In the meantime, I can already let you know what's happening in front of us. That's one of the most beautiful castles of the Rhine. Castle of Katz, with easy. Katz Castle. Katz Castle was named after the name of the family of the owners, which was Katz and Bogen. And as a coincidence, the beginning of their name, Katz, means a male cat. So this is why it's translated as the Castle of Cat into English. It was built in 1370. It's one of the youngest castles, however, it decayed in the 18th century because the family was losing power. Finally, it was fully destroyed by the French, reconstructed in 1897. And in 1989, a Japanese businessman purchased the castle and expanded it into a luxury hotel for several million Deutschmarks back then. So it's a very luxury 5-star hotel up there. Excellent views, you know, towards the cliff of Lorelei and the downstream points. This is the castle of Mouse, which means mouse as well.
It's hard to see her.
Well, on the right side, just worth mentioning maybe is a historical train here, which dates to the beginning of the 20th century. The name of the town is St. Gorshausen. St. Gorshausen is, or used to be a monk who used to live here back in the 9th century. After he became a saint later on, he was proclaimed saint by the Roman Catholic Church, and after this monk the town is named.
Noontime bells. Both sides of the river.
The next upcoming castle will be the castle on the left side, the castle with so many flags up top. It is the castle of Rheinfels, which means the Rhine stone. Fels is an old German word for stone. Well, in its heydays, this was the largest castle that ever lived. It was planted by the French in 1797. So it withstood the first French attack in 1698, but later, 100 years later, the French would come back in 1797 and blasted it out. As a ruin, however, there is a restaurant there that is beautiful spell, talking about the castle on the left side, the castle of Rheinfels. And enjoy the day. Thank you so much.
starting to get extremely windy on the Rhine. There is another picturesque little town, castle set up here, but we don't have Lubo speaking anymore, so I think I'm going to go downstairs and kind of try to find him and interview him briefly before I end this. Okay, I just walked downstairs on the 3rd level, and this is the Viking Modi, and these are the folks who are running the ship. Claudia, we see quite a bit. The captain once in a while. Lubo Krupa is the guy who narrated the video for us. Okay, so we're going to have a treat here. We're going to meet the man behind the voice, the velvet voice, if you want to call it that. I love hearing Lubo speak. And so Lubo, what position do you have on board?
I'm working as a program director.
You're the marketing program director?
Yes.
And how long have you worked for Viking?
4 years now.
Excellent. Well, they have chosen an excellent person to do this. It's really, you do a wonderful job, and I could listen to you speak for hours.
Thank you so much. It's not only me, it's also the other crew.
Oh yeah, there's there we go, exactly, right? You got a great crew here. Well, and you have this beautiful young lady who's helping out at the front desk, who's very friendly and helps us. Well, listen, thank you very much. I'm going to actually load this up to my YouTube account, and I'll send you the link. So
thank you very much.
I'll get you an email address that you can use, and we'll send it on. So now that we had a chance to meet Lubo and some of the other crew members, we'll go back up, take a little more video along the Rhine. You can see this beautiful little town. I don't know if its name is here. Stay. Riverboat. Off in the distance, up on the hill, another classic-looking castle along the Rhine. Nice way to end the video. Okay, but here we just went by, took a bunch of nice still pictures with my camera. There we go. The other side of the hill. We're at the 581 kilometer mark with Joan and Frank.
Could be Marksburg up there.
And
Frank.
and we're getting, and we think
Okay.
the boat's turning sideways in the river. This is not exactly what I was expecting to
That's
see.
where we're going. Marksburg Castle.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Okay.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
gonna do that there. Now, what
Oh, then why'd we overshoot it? That doesn't make sense.
They overshoot it and they're turning the boat around.
There was something going on with the boat and the
Yeah,
police
looks like, yeah.
blue light down there, so that I think they had to go past it.
So that's the end of it. You think it is, yeah,
Okay, so this is the equivalent of taking a hot rod car and spinning it out to turn it around. Here we go, we have the professional dancer, if we saw her do a nice,
Yeah, the
But it-
special dancer is paid for it.
you did a great job of imitating Olivia Newton-John.
on steroids.
With the help of Frank, who was trying to be like John Travolta. He was doing a good job. Okay, so here we go. We have spun around in the river, and we're now headed upstream to park over here near the castle. Okay, so we're looking at
Two of
the
us have got this figured
green
out.
balls in the trees.
It used to be,
Mike, do you want anything from the buffet?
Okay, we'll be letting some folks off to go see this castle, and then we're going to the forest.